Okay, I thought I was done with the JavaScript obfuscation videos for a while, but I made the mistake of just double checking through my emails to make sure that I got all the special kinds of ones that I've looked at so far. I figured everything else pretty much looks like the others, until I spotted one that I hadn't actually opened a while back. This one's actually kind of funny in the sense that it's a nicely formatted email from I believe it's Dutch domain servicing company, something like a GoDaddy perhaps. Bill for my Rogers.com account, which is obviously very bogus because of the fact that would be like giving somebody a gmail.com or a hotmail.com account as if it was you that owned those domains. Anyways, the attachment from this has JavaScript that has a very interesting obfuscation technique to it, and the actual parts that I could see so far in the code look very much worthwhile going after one more attack video here before being able to finally get along with doing real life stuff. It's about 160 lines of code, few functions, few garbled junk, but it's also packed. It has some packed functions in here, not just one. It has one there, one here, one there, and that one. So let's go to the beautifier because it says that it can depack those for us. Okay, and I'm going to detect packers and de-escape these character codes for us. We wind up with this 235 lines. Save this as a new file. That's supposed to be saved as JavaScript. Okay, so one thing to notice about that is that we still have packed code in here. Okay, so can we go back to the beautifier? Just tell it to run again. Didn't change anything. Okay, so why didn't that change anything? Might just be too complex. So let's take all of this function and we're putting this into a new document. Then back to here, and we'll grab the second eval and do the same with it. This way we'll process the evals. Okay, so I replaced the eval with a document right. Let's set up a dummy HTML document. And we'll save this. Okay, now I can view this running, and it looks all running together. Let's add a break between these. And we'll even do it at the end. Okay, so there's the code for them. Something right there screams a problem. That is supposed to be a evaluatable expression in order for that ternary operator to work. Probably what's happening here is it might be outputting a character to an HTML form that can't actually be rendered. Okay, so let's double check that somehow. Okay, so what I'm going to do is move all that script into the body, have it be inline. Inline script call here. What we're going to do is write it directly into a text area box. That's the same thing that the beautifier has. The materials inside of a text area. That's why we're able to copy greater than and less than symbols that probably wouldn't appear otherwise. Okay, and then off to view it. No change in the first code. And look at that. That whole part, what got chopped out before, it was converting a fairly complicated expression into a link, but it couldn't actually make a link, so it didn't display one. There, that would have cost quite a bit of time chasing after something parsing out incorrectly. Okay, so let's take that now into the original code. And what we will do is replace this eval with the first code. And we replace the second eval with this code. Now to keep going, because what we did spot was that these are additional packed functions here that have to be processed. Take all the code for the first eval, back to our viewer, and replace it. And all of the eval for the second one. And there's our new code. This replaces the first section. Okay, now I'm going to copy everything back to the beautifier. And we will now take this entire code to a new document. Okay. It looks like a lot of the variables are simply strings that are probably not being used. They appear to be just simply comments from documented web pages elsewhere that's really chopped up and scattered in order to throw technical words and look like they might be part of the code. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do with this page now is go through and do all of the simple string handling, the, eliminating of everything except for the last term in the bracket. Okay, so I finished with that simple string cleanup. First thing I'm going to do here now, before continuing with those strings, is eliminate some of these unused functions. I didn't see any instance of some of these things in here. And away with this. Okay, that got rid of quite a lot of junk. These ones I'm going to leave as they are right now. Functions called by a variable, because I don't know if they're going to actually execute something within them that we're going to need. As I was going through the strings, I noticed a lot of calls being made to immigration, the prototype function defined here. So let's figure this one out first, because we're going to encounter it quite a bit. Okay, so this function goes and hands off the value of this to over here. Okay, so this function then takes the argument. This returns it as the component of Pentium here. So then this whole expression becomes this. And now what we need to do here is replace dist with world, then replace world with B. So clearly this just becomes substring. And this is a constant 0. Is that used anywhere else? Nope. Okay, so the value that's passed into immigration 1, we take the first 2 characters of it and return that. So the first 2 characters of what we pass immigration are going to be returned and then split and then split with basically no divider between them. So we're going to have two characters, and we then only return the first one. So immigration is returning only the first letter of each string passed into it. So we can go through and replace those. Just P, just S. Any more immigration? No. And I don't think immigration 1 is used anywhere else. We can now get rid of these two while we're up here. That's not used anywhere. Okay, leave the rest alone for now. Okay, before proceeding further, I'm going to take a few moments and I'm going to double check for any uses of these strings and throw out the ones that are unused. And now we can see a little bit more clearly some of the code that still has yet to be fixed here. This is to be replaced with DO, no surprise there. Split on the plus sign, but don't include it, and then rejoin the part. That, which is only used here. Evaluate this. Triple equals means not only is it equal to it, but is the typecast the same? And these are not equal even in the first place, so they are false or 0. Okay, so let's start popping and shifting stuff off of this array. And we're just going to identify it here as shifting, takes that off of the array. Popping, take that out of the array. Popping again. Next is a shift. And next is a shift again. And the exe is shifted out here, leaving us with an empty, unused array there now. And now that leaves us with a lot less code, and the code that's here is starting to look very familiar. SHD prototype says to replace folk with that and lore with that, giving us wscript shell. And the SHD prototype not used anymore. Let's start replacing what we know we can replace. ActiveX object. System gel object. This is our friendly neighborhood internet request connection object. This is clearly our temp folder path and our very familiar data streaming object or data streamer. Okay, further simplification. Well, all of this code that gets run, this is the scope. This is the linear part. Functions don't get called until later. So I'm just going to move this above here to see how it would run. First parameter is the URL. And dairy. And now we can replace this part with just simply this code being executed linearly because it's only being executed one time. Bewitched returns a number between 0 and something. So it is going to always be true. a lot more cleaner. No more need for this code. This is clearly our exe to write. And now I think I can safely say, looking at the rest of this, these are unused variables. And technically, none of these variables is used later here within the part we need. But it can kind of execute the code when it tries to define them by using them this way. Or it may or may not. All of this becomes garbage we're just going to get rid of, unexecuted, ignorable. Not going to worry about it. Interpretation pretty easy at this point. We have everything here that creates the objects we need. This is going to hook a function into internet domain object. An internet request object, a DOM object, has many different events that can occur on loading, on change, on click, on this, on that, is what they're identified by. And you can respond to those things happening, or you can actually even add code directly into them so that when those events happen, then the code will execute. So this is what's happening here, is the object, the connection object is having its ready state change code pre-filled with a function to execute, so that when we actually then open the connection down here and send it off, we will be waiting for this ready state change, which will actually happen several times. It will happen as it's being first sent, and as it's loading, and as it's continuing to download, and then when it's finally ready, everything is finished. So when it's completely finished, it will then execute the contents of this if, because the other times it's just going to fail this if and ignore that. And yeah, should it happen to have not downloaded anything, then there'll never be a ready state complete for it, and it will just die, I think, or it'll just be garbage. And what we're going to be doing here is inserting this function, which is basically, we can rename this as our hook. We're adding a hook function, and we're passing into it the internet request object, which goes here. That again goes here, and the pathway to the file to write is right here. So this part is the familiar part to us. It will open up a streamer object and write the contents of the returned response to a file, and then close it. And interestingly note, this JavaScript actually uses the properties and method function notation with the dots here, as opposed to the brackets in every one of these cases. Just a change from all the other scripts again. And then when it's finally done, it goes ahead and writes that file, or sorry, it goes ahead and runs that file in a likely invisible window. And yeah, so it's going to download a payload. So since we know it's going to download the payload from here, do we have a still infected site? And the answer is yes. Let's go save that with these other ones here. And now let's go and double check with it. Yeah, encrypt, locky, file coder, encoder, crypto locker, bunch of the generic names for the same type of thing. So that's the payload. And no, I'm not entirely maliciously minded. After identifying any site that has an infection, I do contact the webmaster through the available contact addresses to inform them of the fact that they are hosting malware, giving them a chance to clean it up if they haven't been informed, or if they are uninformed of the fact that they have been hijacked and are being used for distributing such malicious, horrible malware.